Hey everyone, Gill Gross here, post-match Nick Kyrgios versus Ugo Humbert, second round Australian Open 2021. If you are not here for spoilers, click off the video in 3, 2, 1. Thrilling, epic, 5-set win for Nick Kyrgios over Ugo Humbert in front of a raucous, unruly Australian Open crowd in John Cain Arena. I'm going to break down this match. I'm going to talk about why Ugo Humbert seemed to be in control for the better part of four sets, and why that changed, how it changed, and Kyrgios was able to really change the way the match was being played in a key moment at the end. Humbert almost hit the finish line with 2 match points. He didn't quite get there. And then from there, Nick was a different kind of player, and I'll get into why. Then after that, I will discuss the round 3 matchup that looms. Dominic Thiem will face Nick Kyrgios in the third round in what is sure to be a blockbuster. Not sure, you should never say anything sure when you're talking about Nick Kyrgios because nothing is sure. If you're not following me on Twitter, make sure you do that. The handle is @Gill_Gross. And if you are a podcast listener, I recommend that you subscribe to Monday Match Analysis on your favorite podcast platform. The link to Spotify and Apple are in the description. All right. Again, this match featured a very key little stretch that really decided the match. End of the 4th set. So I want to get there pretty quickly. But first, let me just cover what occurred before that crucial 10, 15, 20 minutes. This was kind of a classic. First of all, this was a very evenly played match, and the shot making was tremendous, and the offensive tennis was great. And it really, this court surface really complemented both players. There was tons of fireworks. I'm sure if you watch the highlights of this match, there's going to be so many entertaining shots that were hit. It's going to be a fun highlight reel because that's what it was watching the match. It was a lot of fireworks. Serve dominated as well. But the difference was, in classic Nick Kyrgios fashion, there were lapses. There were lapses in Kyrgios' focus. One came at the end of the first set when he got upset with the let cord machine that called lets on shots that were not lets. He had a point. I don't think they were lets. I think the machine was being weird. But again, it affected his game. And then the same thing happened at the end of the 3rd set, and it spilled over to the beginning of the 4th set. Now, let me be specific when I say that Nick lapsed in focus. I literally mean that he was not in the correct headspace to make an attempt at playing his best tennis. If you look at the end of the 1st set, there were some very questionable shot selection decisions that Nick Kyrgios had. And, 3rd and 4th set, same thing. He will actually get himself in a headspace where he is not prepared to make the decisions that are going to help him win the point. That is what often happens to Nick Kyrgios for periods at a time during a tennis match. Humbert, Mr. Steady. I really loved the way he went about things. I like the way he goes about things. I think he's got a great swagger, a great confidence to his game. I think he's generally pretty engaged at all times, and I like that about Ugo Humbert. So Kyrgios was in and out, and Humbert was consistent, and that's what saw Humbert be up a break in 2 sets in the 4th set. That was it. In the first game of the 2nd set, Kyrgios did get a break of serve, and he got some returns in play, and I thought he hit some very savvy change-up forehands, hitting loopy cross-court to the Humbert backhand and taking some pace off, and Ugo was just not used to that, and it's a great play because Humbert, just like Kyrgios' backhand, he'd rather redirect the pace. So to take some pace off the ball, add some spin and height, loop cross court, it drew some errors from Humbert, and just in general, Kyrgios put some air under the forehands, and I think he hadn't really done that for the entire match leading up to that. It was a great change-up. It threw Humbert off. Obviously, it started with getting some returns in play, and Kyrgios got the break in the second set. Second set was very clean, serve dominated, lots of winners, not a lot of unforced errors, lots of first serves into the court. So that first game was the difference. But other than that, you had a 2-1 advantage with a break for Ugo Humbert, and it was just about mental focus. It was just that he wasn't going in and out of the good mindset, and Nick was. But late in the fourth set, I would point to the 4-all game, and I would point to wait, I'm trying to think. No. I think it was so it was 2 games. It was Humbert's service game at 5-4, and it was Humbert's service game at 4-3, right? Those were the two service games that I thought Nick made a push and made some changes. So here's what happened. And it was a combination of a couple things. But one, the crowd lifted Nick up. You have to acknowledge that watching the match. There's just no way around that. And we've all seen Kyrgios go look down and out in a match, and instead of looking for ways to lift himself up, like I just talked about with Jannik Sinner when I broke down his match against Denis Shapovalov, and I talked about how Sinner, just by himself, you could see him pick himself up and raise his energy level when he was down and out, and he needed that push. Well, Nick doesn't generally do that. Normally, he looks for anything to figure out a way to spiral downward. But the crowd picked him up. I don't think there's any way around that. This crowd was, I would say, more unruly than your average Davis Cup crowd. It was intense. It was cheering Ugo Humbert's missed first serves intense. It was borderline. I love that. I think it's a spectacle. I know some of you guys are going to probably comment about how disrespectful the crowd was. They were disrespectful. I can't argue with that. I do think it makes for some great theater, and I don't really hate it, if I'm being honest. But yeah, they were not following etiquette, not at all. So after that, so with Kyrgios kind of staying mentally engaged, I don't think it would have been possible without the crowd. One thing he did tactically was he just became a little bit more willing to defend at this point with this newfound energy. He allowed his court position to drift back, and when Nick doesn't want to run, he does not do that. He stays put on the baseline, and he tries to anticipate, and then he tries to react, and then he tries to basically counterattack, which is obviously the riskiest type of shot selection that you can choose to do. But at this point in the match, and I think he did a little bit of this at 1-all in the 1-all game as well when he broke serve in the second set. But at this point in the match, end of the fourth set, the crowd really ramping it up. Nick is going to let himself drift back to play a little defense. That's not getting defensive. That's not to say that if he gets something to attack, he's not attacking it. No, he is. All I'm saying is he's willing to defend. That's all I'm saying. And that means when he drops a short ball, right? Let's say he hits a return of serve and it's not of great quality. He actually lets himself drift back to play some defense. You have to do that to play good defense. If you hit a crap return and then stay on the baseline, a good opponent is going to hit a winner right past you. You're not going to have time. But if you are a willing defender, you're going to hit that bad return. You're going to calculate that. You're going to say, oh, that's short. I better drop back here. I better move back and give myself some time to defend. And Nick was actually doing that here. So at the same time, Nick became willing to defend. Ugo became timid moving forward. And I don't know why this happened, but he just was not confident coming in and finishing. And as a result, you saw a lot of points where Kyrgios was using the continental grip on both the forehand and the backhand to defend and extending rallies, and ultimately he was able to win some of those points. You should never let a player be, 7-8 feet behind the baseline, hitting slice defense 3 shots in a row. You can't do that. You got to move in because those are easy volleys that Humbert passed up. and he wanted no part of. And then when he did come up, you could again see it was 80% confident, not 100%. There was just a little bit missing on his conviction. Ultimately, on match point, Humbert was sucked in on the same kind of thing where Kyrgios had continental grip. This is the second match point, and he hits a really good low slice forehand that is cross court, and Humbert chips and charges down the line. Just not really clear-headed decision-making there. It wasn't a great opportunity to move in, so I think he should have just stayed back. Or you got to make it a little bit better. Or I think this would have been hard, or I think, you come in not maybe one shot earlier, but I actually I'm not confident about that. But the point is, Kyrgios becomes willing to play some defense, and Humbert gets timid moving forward. And now the dynamic completely shifts because, again, now Nick is having success kind of on all facets, right? Having to come from behind on some of these points and dictating, being in charge on some points. He's winning both types. Then, of course, you have the return. And it's another error by Humbert. It's another error by Humbert at this 5-4 game. First of all, he is not making first serves, and that might have been the tension. That might have been the crowd. That might have been the moment. That might be being, a little bit young and susceptible and green and not overly experienced serving under the kind of pressure that Humbert was under. But even when he did make the first serves, they were not to the right spot. This was irking me kind of all match. Humbert was not identifying this the entire match, but you have to make Nick Kyrgios hit good forehand returns. You must. You have to. If you get your serve broken by Nick Kyrgios and all you made him hit was backhand returns, you should do the walk of shame. Because you're letting him off the hook. It's his worst shot, the forehand return. It is not good. It is technically flawed. It is not effective. So, not to say that Nick can never hit a good forehand return. He can. In fact, he did at 1-1 in the fifth set. He hit some good ones, 2 good ones. But when at the end of a game, when I'm looking at, okay, Kyrgios broke serve. How many backhand returns did he hit? How many forehand returns did he hit? Especially on the first serve, mostly on the first serve return. It should be equal or more forehands. If you're giving him more backhands to hit than forehands, you're doing him a favor. Flat out, straight up. And go back and watch most of the big points in the big moments in this match, and Humbert is serving to the Kyrgios backhand. And I don't know how many great backhand returns Kyrgios had to hit for Humbert to realize that wasn't happening when he was going to the forehand. He was just kind of blind to that. And that's my biggest critique, my biggest criticism for Humbert. I thought he played great in this match. I thought he showed his stuff. I think if you watch this match and, I think you should see how good Ugo Humbert is by watching this match. Because I'm a believer in this guy. I think he's going to be really, really good. And I don't care that he lost this match. He showed his stuff. He's for real. He's legit. But strategically, he was not in the right spot here. He was not doing the right things. He just wasn't. Or at least he wasn't executing. Humbert's serve, and this is not just because he's a lefty. It's not. Believe me. Humbert's serve is great at finding the righty backhand. Okay? And that is a great skill. That's part of the reason why I made my Hail Mary low percentage tweener down the line pick of Humbert over Thiem. That's what part of the reason I did it stylistically, because if I thought the matchup happened, I knew that Thiem was going to have to hit a lot of difficult backhand returns. And again, this is true for righties too, right? Federer, Djokovic, really good at finding the righty backhand. Andy Murray, Andrei Rublev, not so much. So it's not just because Humbert's a lefty. No, it's because he's simply really good at executing that serve. But he was not comfortable enough mixing it up and going to the forehand or going to the body often enough in this match. He needed to make that a regular serve, not a changeup. There were times where he went down the tee serving on the ad side. It happened, but it was a changeup. Why is that a changeup? That should have been the norm, because that's hitting to Kyrgios' weaker return, and it's Humbert's less comfortable serve. So maybe if he tried to hit to Kyrgios' forehand, maybe Humbert would have missed all his first serves or missed a higher percentage of his first serves. That's possible, but that would be a problem anyway. So I'm going to close the book on that. That's what happened in the fourth set that flipped the match to Kyrgios, okay? Nick starts to defend. Humbert doesn't come in, and Nick is getting returns in play. Part of that is because Ugo is hitting to his backhand return. Ugo is not finding the Kyrgios forehand return. And at that point, Kyrgios gets into a rhythm and into a swagger. I think, just saving match points will do this to players, not just Nick. But when Kyrgios is really loose as a goose, which he was, he becomes this terrifying talent. Terrifying. And Nick was. He was absolutely terrifying. His backhand got into the best groove I've ever seen it in. I've never seen Nick's backhand get into as much of a rhythm as it did late in this match, into the tiebreak, into the beginning of the fifth set. And he was serving really well, and it was through the roof. It was such unbelievable tennis. Shot making was incredible. And at this point, Humbert had pretty much lost the match, because Kyrgios, again, held on to that level, played a great 1-all game. I thought it was Kyrgios' best return game was the 1-all game. And by the way, if you're curious, when it comes to returns, Kyrgios had to make 2 forehand returns, 2 backhand returns. So that's okay. At least make it even. Just don't let him hit more backhands than forehands. That's me as a coach. If I were to coach a player, I would be very upset with my player. You get it. I'm beating a dead horse. But yeah, Kyrgios went God mode. He went God mode, especially on his backhand. So he ran away with this one. He reached this really fun level in the fifth set, and that was it. Crowd lifted him up. The match changed complexion. I think you can be a casual observer, and if you were watching it towards the end of the fourth set, you could see, this tennis looks different. It doesn't have the same look to it. It doesn't feel the same, and it didn't. It changed. And again, Kyrgios, he saves 2 match points here and wins the match. Okay, let's go to the Dominic Thiem match real quick. And at first, I'll just address the Humbert thing. I do think that, first of all, Kyrgios is going to be glad this went 5 sets and this was a physical match. But I do think that Humbert would have been a tougher match for Thiem, perhaps, than Nick. Now, I think both of them are really tough third-round matches for Dominic Thiem on this lightning quick court surface, because that, again, let me just reiterate, it's playing incredibly fast. So great servers, offensive players, big forehands. It's going to be tough on this surface for Dominic Thiem in the third round regardless. But this is all about fitness. These are my questions. I have always maintained with Nick Kyrgios the same thing. I've been saying the same thing for so long. He has always been really, really, really talented and out of shape. And I've never wanted to sugarcoat it. I've never wanted to, because it's always been so clear. His body breaks down. He does not go into the second week of a major and maintain a good physical condition. He doesn't do that. You can look at his title runs, Acapulco. He's playing injured by the end there, right? He can win the title. He can get to the end. He can play well on Sunday, but he's at that point taped up and sore and taking medical timeouts. Kyrgios has always been, people like to talk about the mental problem, the mental issues, and yes, those are there. He doesn't focus well, but I've always thought that the fitness was a bigger problem. He just went 5 sets. What's he going to have? What's he going to have in the third round against Thiem? That's why I think that Humbert, who actually showed some great physical endurance in 2020, that was noticeable. I think Humbert would have been a tougher match for Thiem. Although I do think Kyrgios will be very tricky if he holds up. And by the way, in this match, let me just throw this out there. He was having some left leg issues in the second set, and they completely went away. But are they going to come back? And professionalism is also part of this. I'm not there, but and I'm not going to make any kind of assumptions, but recovery is hard. It is active. It is what the great, most committed players in this sport, it is what they take very, very, very seriously. So I don't know why. I can't tell you what Nick Kyrgios is doing after a match. I cannot tell you. All I can tell you is that his body tends to break down when he plays a bunch of long matches. So that's my question here. But if he's going to hold up, then I think the serve is going to present, and the offensive play style, I think it's going to present plenty of problems for Dominic Thiem. And I think it's going to be a tricky third round, and we will see. We will see what happens. I will say that if Thiem gets through this, I don't think Pablo Carreño Busta will have anything for him. I don't think Diego Schwartzman, if that's the quarterfinal, will have anything for him. And I think it'll be full speed ahead for Dominic Thiem into the semifinal. That's how I see it. But right now, still early in the tournament, with the unique way that this surface is playing, I think Kyrgios is probably will be Thiem's stiffest test until the semifinal, if he's not the Walking Dead. If he doesn't come out onto the court without his movement and his physicality, because he needs that. All right, looking forward to that one. Hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.